Good afternoon, ladies. I guess we only have ladies so far. Hope everybody's doing well. Again, keep in mind you have your first assignment due a week from today. I would highly recommend. Some of you have reached out to me already. If you want to send me drafts and thoughts about your research question, and we'll get some time to work on that a little bit today. Um, that you schedule some office, reach out to schedule some office hours, and we can meet sometime tomorrow or early next week, and we can talk through the research question as well. That's going to be a very important component of this entire process, um, to again get some direct assistance and guide you all to the exact information that you're trying to find out. Keep in mind though where we begin as we go throughout the course. So our first goal here, I'm going to review some of the things that we talked about on Tuesday very briefly. Again, our first goal is to identify the different ways that people decide what's real. Um, we hear a lot about, fake news and that, but there are actual facts out here. There are things that are, reality and objective truth. This doesn't mean we can't have our own opinions and perspectives and feelings about things, but we saw this year some of the dangers, whether it be denying the reality of disproportionate violence against Black Americans. Like, we shouldn't have to get that stuff on tape for people to believe that that's actually reality, right? At least I don't think so. When it comes to something like COVID, where people, again, many people, even to this very moment, will deny that it's actually a real disease, or that, people have been affected by it in this way. And if you don't believe that something is real, it affects your behavior. So it's really important that, as scientists, we try and push for, objective facts and truth. So keep in mind that that's our first goal, that there's something that, your research question that you're going to formulate is going to be related to you believe something is true in society. And then the research is just us exploring whether or not it's actually real. We want to be able to explain the nature of social science and then understand our options for conducting social science. We'll get to that a little bit deeper in the next couple of weeks. So one of the things, again, we have two foundations when we talk about, forming like agreement reality. That first, use your own intelligence. That there are some things that just make logical sense to you. This doesn't mean it is always true. That's what we do the research for. But an example, I have never been on the moon. I'm not sure if any of you all have. But why does it seem logical that the side of the moon that's away from the sun might be colder? Like, why does that seem logical to you? And base that first off of things that you've experienced directly. You ain't been on the moon, but you've experienced other things, particularly related to the sun. So even though you may not have been to the moon, why might it seem logical that the side that's facing away from the moon is colder?
Because the sun produces heat.
Say it again.
Because the sun produces heat.
Good. Have you all seen other things that have been further away from the sun that you have seen that have been colder? So there's a cliche. Cool is the other side of the pillow. The side of the pillow that you sleep on is going to be very warm. The side that's opposite is going to be colder. Places that are further away from the equator are going to be colder than places that are closer, such as Africa. Now, the empiricism, and this is really important, is where we use some type of observation, usually some numbers, to formulate our logic. We know for sure, well, we know that the data shows that, well, let me ask you this. Why might it seem logical that you make more money for each year of college that you have? Why does that seem logical to you? In America, the more years in college that you have, the more likely you the larger your income is going to be. Why does that seem logical? Or does it? Anybody? Does it make sense to you that the more education you have, the
Because the
better?
more time you put in to fulfill your career, whatever. I mean, not whatever. You fulfill your career, then the more money you will receive for it.
Good, I like that. So not only we talking about years of education, but just time period. So people that are 10 years in the field are probably, it's logical to think that they're gonna make more than somebody that's just a year in. Nashia, did you have anything to add to that? Why might it be logical? Why might it make sense to you that the more years of education you have, the more money you're gonna make?
It's basically like the levels of education. Like say like you earn your doctoral degree, you make more money than earning like for someone who earned that a master's degree.
But why? Why should they do that? Why should they make more money? Like, what is the rationale?
They got more experience.
Yeah, more experience and more knowledge.
Knowledge more than anything. They haven't worked yet, so they don't have that much more experience. They got more knowledge.
Yeah, that's some more knowledge.
Right. And ideally, we think that, like, that a nurse, if they make if they're helping you with in your hospital stay, they should make a nice amount of money. But if somebody can perform brain surgery, they probably should make a little bit more. So the same way in all types of disciplines and fields. When you go to a restaurant, right, the things that you need to know to clean the table are not the same things that you need to know to, like, prepare the meal. So in general, we believe that you're supposed to, like, that it makes sense that the more knowledge you have, the more money you make. So the empiricism part comes in. How can we demonstrate that that's true or not? So what data could we use to find out if that's true in terms of, like, numbers? What data could we use? So if we're going to make the claim that the more years of education you have, the higher your income is going to be.
Do a comparison and contrast.
Go ahead.
Contrast versus somebody that has their bachelor's and somebody that has their doctoral.
And then compare and contrast what specifically? What are we comparing and contrasting? Say it again.
The income that they receive based on their amount of education that they got.
Excellent, good. And listen to what she said there. When you measure these things and put them in your paper, you got to be very specific. Don't only say compare and contrast. Be very clear on exactly what you're comparing and contrasting. So we can see, for example, right? And are we only going to compare one person? We want to compare as many different people as possible. So we want to look at the average income. And yes, I love to see y'all taking notes here. The average income of somebody with 12 years of education compared to the average income of somebody with 16 years of education. So you may compare the average income of somebody with 12 years of education compared to the average income of somebody with 16 years of education. And we probably got to be even more specific, Janaya. We're going to say within the United States. Because that measure might be very different if you're talking about Switzerland or Japan or Sierra Leone. Keep this in mind for your own research questions. In developing hypotheses, you want to be as specific and clear as possible. And we'll talk about why this is later on. So we might express this like so. Here's how we might, if we're trying to formulate this as a research question, here's how we might try and set it up, Latasia. Listen up to me here and write this down. And let me think through it myself. So we want to find out if there's a relationship between education and income. So my question may be, how much is income in the United States? How much is income in the United States? No, let me change that. How much is income? Yeah, how much is income in the United States? How much is income in the United States explained by years of education? How much of income in the United States is explained by years of education? How much of income in the United States is explained by years of education? So very simply, what I'm trying to find out here is that if you tell me how much money somebody makes, how much of that will be tied to, like, you know, their level of education, their years of education, their years of education, their years of education. That wording, Diamond, years of education is very precise, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Now, very quickly though, I'm talking about years of education. Y'all live in America. Y'all have had incomes before. Is education the only thing that can impact how much money you make? Is education the only thing that impacts that?
No.
No.
Good. What are some other things that could impact how much money you make?
Your
No
life
wrong.
skills.
Good. So your skills are good. So sometimes, like, you know, people may not have formal education, but they may have, like, you know, a certain set of skills. Sometimes they may have education, but they may not have, like, you know, skills to do a certain job. What else? I want y'all to think a lot about things that people may not be able to control about themselves that have a huge impact. What are some other things that y'all think logically might impact? Like, let me ask y'all, so does everybody make the same amount of money in America?
No.
No. Oh.
Why not? Why do y'all think that's the case? I hope y'all have given this some thought before. Y'all think that everybody with education make a lot of money?
No.
No. Sometimes
No.
Is it, are there people who ain't got a lot of education and make a lot of money?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some other factors that could explain those things besides their education?
They
Education.
talents.
That would probably fall into skills.
Yes.
What resources be on, like the amount of resources that's available to that person?
What do you mean by resources?
That's the thing. Like say for instance,
I think something like that.
Say it again, Diamond.
I say like the people they know.
Okay, networks, that could be important. Absolutely, very good. So we got networks, we got skills. What are some other things that could impact income in America?
I mean, some people with their family wealth. Most likely, if your family got money, you
That
have.
kind of, that could go into it, absolutely. So the wealth that they're born into could impact, like, you know, their income, absolutely. What else? Think about some other personal background things like that. Come on, social science students. What are some personal things like about you? Like when you go into the job market with your full amount of education, what are all the things you think is going to impact where you fall into the income structure?
like your physical ability. You know, like
Say it
how some
again.
jobs that you apply to, like, you know, like how some jobs you apply to, be like, are you able to like stand up for a certain amount of hours or lift this amount of weight or something like that. Basically,
Okay.
your physical.
Okay, good. So one thing, for example, like I'll say, like most days, most people probably can do, but like say for example, like if you're handicapped, yes, they can ask, like, so that's like sometimes something they ask on like job applications. Do you have any kind of disabilities or anything like that? Good. And there are certain jobs where if you do have certain disabilities, no matter how talented you may be, you may not compete for that job. What are some other things related to that? Good, very good. Again, you may have been born with this disability. You may have had a bad accident. You can't help that about yourself, but that could affect your income for sure. What are some other things about yourself that you might not be able to change that could affect your income?
Will your criminal background be one?
Excellent, good. So if you got a criminal record, that could impact it. Excellent. Even if you got a lot of education, like, so if with my PhD right now, if I go out here and commit a felony, that's gonna impact my my income potential going forward, and probably will override that. What are some other things? Personal characteristics. Things about you that you can't change.
The color of your skin.
Color.
Say it again.
The color of your skin.
Absolutely. What the hell, y'all? Jesus Christ. What's something else?
Gender.
Yes, yes. You can have all types of education. And if you're a Black woman, like that affects stuff. It shouldn't. It do. It's America. Y'all heard Childish Gambino. Some of those things I just mentioned, Janiyah, those are other variables. What was the original research question y'all just wrote down? What was the research question y'all wrote down?
You said, oh dang, my bad, wrong page. How much of income in the U.S. is explained by years of education?
Good. So that's our research question, right? But as I just explored, we can look at all types of different things within that, because education alone is not, like, again, your race, your gender, if you got a disability, the social networks, the people that you know, the kind of wealth that you may have had growing up, whether you got a criminal record, all those things in addition to education can really have an impact. But right now, we're just going to focus on education, years of education and income. And again, years of education, that's different from saying PhD, master's degree, etc. We're just going to go through years of education. So empiricism, right, involves us setting this up as a number. Who wants to earn some extra credit today?
Sure.
All right, so dig it, right? Here's your first in-class assignment. Don't worry, I want y'all to get the extra credit. But the main thing I want y'all to do is really go through the process. So y'all wrote down the research question I had, right? Your hypothesis should be expressed in some form of numbers. So let me look. So I'm gonna give you an example. If you're Black, and I don't know that this is true, Diamond, but if you're Black, you're 4 times more likely to get diabetes. Do y'all see how I put that in the form of a number? You're 4 times more likely. It's a social fact that Black men are in prison at a higher rate than white men, and 80% of that, Nashaya, can be explained by race. Some of it might be explained by income, education level, community, but 80%, and again, I don't know that these numbers are true. These are my hypotheses. That I know it's a social fact that Black men and white men are in prison at different rates. So again, so in Janiyah, again, we want to go beyond saying okay, are Black men in prison at higher rates than white men? Yes, of course. What we want to look at it deeply in science is try and find out why. Is it just because they Black? Is it because they poor? Is it because maybe we really are born criminals? Let's do the research and find out. But we want to try and form our hypothesis in the form of a number. So somebody tell me again the research question that you're going to be working with. The research question that I asked.
How much of income in the U.S. is explained by years of education?
So I want you to put in the form of a number, what percentage do you hypothesize that if I can tell you that somebody is making $90,000 a year, Latasia, what percentage of that do you think is explained by how long they went to school? Are y'all clear on what I'm asking y'all to do?
Yes, sir.
So take about 3 minutes and try and write in the form of a hypothesis. And your hypothesis should speak directly to your research question. So I was really, Davicia, in my research question, I was very careful about being very specific with my words in terms of income, years of education. So make sure that your hypothesis include that, okay? First person to unmute themselves and scream out a good one in 3 minutes will get, how many extra credit points y'all think y'all should get for this?
8. 8 points.
Hell, 8 points. Get out of here. I'm gonna give y'all 2 points.
Dang.
I'm gonna give y'all 2 points for it. But this will be practice. If y'all can do this good, maybe I'll give y'all some more extra credit in a little bit. So take a couple of minutes, 3 minutes, and then we're gonna open it up, right? And look, try and do your best. Don't worry about if you get it wrong or not. Take another minute or so, and then we'll open for dialogue. All right, so who got a hypothesis for me?
I think I got one.
Go ahead, Davicia Brisbane.
This is what I put. In the US, the more years of education you have, it's most likely your income will increase by 30%.
Okay, good, good. All right, so say it for me one more time.
In the US, the more years of education you have, it's most likely your income will increase by 30%.
Good. So I'm going to give you 1.5 points for that. Here's what I might tweak. Just something small.
Mm.
For each year of education that you have, your income will increase by 30%. For each year of education, for each year of education, for each year of education. Change that real quick and then restate it for me.
Okay.
And to be clear, that's not the only acceptable answer. So I want to hear from some others in a moment.
Okay. In the US, each year of education you have, it's most likely your income will increase by 30%.
Take out most likely. Your income will. We're making definitive statements in our research because we want to be very objective and precise with our facts. Say it for me one more time.
In the US, each year of education you have, your income will increase by 30%.
Excellent. Good. Very good. Keep that. Other thoughts on how we might structure your, how you structure your hypothesis? Any other ideas? 1.5 points, Davicia. Very good. Again, you don't lose nothing for getting it wrong. Like the main thing I want you to do is like, so Davicia, I'm delighted that you got these points, but the main things I want y'all to do is begin to like see the logic of how you set this up, because y'all gonna have to set this up for y'all own research in a little bit, okay? So other ideas, like I want to hear your thought process more than anything else. That's mainly what Davicia is getting credit on, not even the answer itself.
Okay, I said it takes a person at least 8 or more years of education to receive an equivalent of a 6-figure salary in the US.
Okay, I like that. Say that one more time.
It takes a person at least 8 or more years of education to receive an equivalent of a 6-figure salary in the US.
And I don't think you mean 8 years of education, because you saying that somebody got to graduate from 8th grade, right? If you word it like that.
8 or more years.
But that means that
they of higher education. That's
okay,
what I
good.
said.
Okay, good.
8 or more years of higher education.
Make sure that wording is very precise. Very good. And again, simple things, but like, do you see, Janiyah, how just that one word, higher, totally changes the focus of your research? Because you're saying this for 8th graders, which is, again, that's like, I know that's not what you meant, but it's going to go by exactly what you wrote. So you want to be very clear with your writing. Say it for me one more time.
It takes a person at least 8 or more years of higher education to receive an equivalent of a 6-figure salary in the US.
Good. So I will reword it because like higher education was not included in our question. So we would just say it would take 20 years of education. So 8 plus 12, because you're saying you're focusing on higher education. So change the 8 to 20 and then reword it for me.
It would take a person 20 years to receive it would take a person 20 years of higher education.
Of just education.
Of just education.
Yeah.
It would take a person 20 years of education to receive an equivalent of a 6-figure salary in the US.
Word up. Good. So you're almost there, Janiyah. You just got 4 more years, right?
For sure.
Any others? Good. 1.5 points, Janiyah Barnes.
Dr. Muhammad, I
Yes.
think I got one, but it's not that good.
That's okay. Hey, don't worry about that. Like, look, it's about the process. I'm sure it's good.
I said 65% of the income in the US is made by people with little education.
People may say it one more time.
65% of the income in the US is made by people with little education.
Now you got to be more specific than little education. You got to give me a precise number. What does little mean?
like
6
don't got
years
a college
education?
degree. Like don't got a college degree, they just got a high school diploma.
How many years is that?
How many years of high school?
No. So
How
if
many
you're
years?
if you like you got to give me the exact, like the precise number. Again, when we talk about empiricism, it can't be college degree. It got to be 11 years, 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, 15 years. Like how many years are you talking about? And there's no wrong answer. I just want to be clear what number you want you refer to as little. And then let's take a step back. So so of all the money that's being made in America, do you think it's logical that 65% of that the majority of that is made by people with a college degree or less?
Or like 50?
No, like, all right, so let me let you in on the secret that we should have exposed you to in social sciences by now. Like 99% of the income and stuff is made by like 1% of the people. So just as a reference.
Okay.
Actually, let me take that back. It's not 99%, 90%. Like, so the 10% of all the rest of the money, that's for all of us to split amongst ourselves. Do your own research. I could be making that up, but like, it's really important to know that.
Yes, sir.
And these things are important, right? Like the things that you learn within your social science classes in general and the things that you've observed in society are really going to be important and key. Like, so as social science students, you have to understand these patterns that like, yeah, like the wealthy people got like a whole bunch, and like everybody else got like a little. Like, that's not me making stuff, like y'all do understand, like that's not something I'm making up, right? Like, again, there's empirical data on this. You can do like, do your own research on it. So like, y'all might be too young to remember Occupy Wall Street, like when white people were sleeping in the park and stuff and protesting income inequality. It was based off of that whole notion that like the rich people get way more than you can possibly imagine, and then the rest of us have to compete for everything else. Then within that pie, it's really important that you understand that the cuts that Black people get out of that, and it's really important that you understand the cuts that women get out of that, and why that is. Do y'all think that that's just a reflection of who's the smartest and most talented and hardworking? It is not. So one of the reasons why we want to use science is try and like unpack why these things exist, and then to just show that they do exist. Because there's a lot of people in America, Diamond, that act like it's not like that. They really believe that, hey, everything is just equal and fair and everybody has like the same opportunities. And that hasn't been the case. So make sure again that before you even, whatever your topic is, just think about what like is practical, makes sense. So the way you set it up is sound, but I would challenge the veracity of the notion that that 65% of the income is going to go to people without a lot of education. If that was the case, you would see a lot less people going to college. So keep these questions and hypotheses in mind, right? I want to get back into the lecture real quickly. Are there any questions or comments before I move on and get back into the lecture itself? Okay, very good job. All right, so again, right, we look for empiricism to try and look at, and let me see if I can actually pull this up to reflect the point. One moment here. All right, so here, right, empiricism. So this, like on the left side here, and you all can see my screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
So on the left side, you see the unemployment rate by degree. And one of the things you see, right, that the more years of education you have, the lower the unemployment rate. But we can also measure it again, by weekly earnings. So people that earn less than high school diploma, they making $592. So all workers, right, for all workers, for every worker in the United States, they make on average, Diamond, $969 a week. That's if you're a college student. That's if you got 4 kids. That's for everybody, $969 a week. But very soon, you're going to have a bachelor's degree, Diamond. So your salary structure is $1,248 a week. So the difference between you and all workers is nearly $300 when you have this bachelor's degree. Once you get your master's, Davicia, it's up to $1,497 a week. You could do some things with that, right? And then you see up to professional degree and up to a doctoral degree. So keep all these things in mind, right? When we talk about empiricism, we're using numbers to show. So, and we talked last week about variables. For one extra credit point, what are the 2 variables in the research question that I gave y'all? What are the 2 variables?
Logic
Cause and effect.
and
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
go ahead. Somebody had said something before me.
Income and education.
Income and what?
Education. No, the years of education.
Yes. Good. One extra credit point. Income and years of education. 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 For my 2 variables there. And again, be very specific, Diamond, not just education, because they giving you education here. They just give you doctor's degree, professional degree, master's degree. But I was asking for the exact years. Is it 15 years, 16 years, 17 years, etc.? But the main thing I want you to see here is that this relationship is expressed through numbers. These are numbers that as young people, you should be very keen on. If you're spending all this time in college and stuff and going through all these changes, you want to know what the relationship is going to be between your effort, Davicia, and what you're going to receive at the end of it. Keep these relationships in mind no matter what topic you choose over these next few weeks. All right, digging back into the lecture, thanks for your patience and your engagement. So again, right, we're trying to decide what's real. Is it real? Oops, I'm sorry. So is it real? Like, again, you hear all the time, Latasia, you're supposed to go to college, supposed to go to college, supposed to go to college. But is it real, the relationship between college and income? We saw some data that showed that it is. That data is, again, it can't just be about what you believe, and it can't just be from 2 people because, I'm sure that many of you probably, I know that I do, have friends that I know and members of my family that did not go to college that made good money. Some make more money than me. My brother, for example, like he didn't go to college. Well, he did not finish college, Janaya. He ended up being a manager of different restaurants and businesses. So he ended up being an executive general manager. And I feel very confident he makes more money than I do presently. So we know all types of people like that. But what we look at in America is what the average, so we can't just compare me and my brother and say, okay, that proves that you don't need education. We want to look at as much data as possible. So the data I showed you was of everybody. And if you look at all that data, it shows that people like my brother are the exception, and that you probably have a better chance of raising your income through education than other means in this country. And we can look at that, we can show that relationship empirically. So again, right, let me get back into some of the things that we talked about on Tuesday of how we decided what was real previously. Previously, it was decided what was real because the people in power, they determined for everybody else what was real. The people in power said that slavery was good and beneficial, and that like there's publications now that even try and say they like they don't call it slavery, Diamond. They call it like voluntary servitude. Like there are textbooks in Texas that actually call it that. Do your own research. I could be making it up. That's not objectively true. But if you got power to determine what's in the curriculum, Janaya, then you can, like, spread these false ideas. It has been because men had power in religious institutions, in educational and political institutions, to define women as second-class citizens, for many people that became real. We talked about before, right, that it seems pretty obvious that all those big hits and playing in the NFL for many of years is going to have some impact upon your brain structure and development as you age. But the NFL had the power to deny that reality. That's why it's really important for you all to use information to take the power away from, again, your preachers, people like me, the news media, or whomever that may have alternative agendas. Your information and the truth should be the authority. Oftentimes, again, right, like I said, in your research, you want to be very accurate with your observations. So, Janiyah, it would not be enough for you to say, I drink a lot of Red Bulls. If you're doing a relationship, like, I want to find out the relationship between the number of Red Bulls that Dr. Muhammad drinks and his health. So don't just say a lot. You would have to carefully observe. Dr. Muhammad drank 87 Red Bulls this semester. So you want to be very accurate with your measurements. Do y'all hear me? Keep this in mind for your research, all right? In the questions and discussion we've had so far today, y'all have asked, y'all have like, I press y'all to be very specific. Y'all gonna get mad at me as I do this throughout the research, but it's important. Has somebody ever said or mischaracterized your behavior and say that, DeVisa, you always do this, and it ain't something that you actually always do? That can be very frustrating. Like somebody may have seen you do something one time, Diamond. It's like, well, Diamond, she always be scummy drunk at the party. It's like, dude, like I got toe up like one weekend throughout 4 years, and like that just happened to be the weekend you saw me. Like, that's really not how I get down. I make light of it with this example, but human beings do these things all the time where we overgeneralize. That, like, again, we want to be very precise. It's not, it would be inaccurate for us to say that Black people are always killed by the police. No, let's be very precise. Black people are 7 times more likely to be killed by the police than whites. So those are the kind of language that we want to be able to use when we get into social science, all right? We don't want to say all white people are rich, Janiyah. We don't want to say that all Mexicans are immigrants. All gay people are gay because they've been molested. Are there probably some gay people that have been molested when they were younger? Absolutely. We want to be very precise with scientific thinking, all right? With this, avoid looking for the deviant cases. It is an accurate statement for me to say that South Carolina generally doesn't get snow. And then Diamond will say, well, no, that's not true, because I remember one time when I was in high school, it snowed like 3 inches. That's true. But it's also true that South Carolina generally does not get snow. But in my case, Diamond, I want to be very clear with my language. So it's easy for me, as opposed to me saying that it never snows in South Carolina, I may say that it may snow in South Carolina like once every 2 or 3 years. Or I want to be even more specific in that South Carolina may get 3 inches, or Columbia, South Carolina may get 3 inches of snow once every 3 years. We want to be very specific. So in talking about the foundations of social science, right? Logic and observation, logic and observation. So, and DeVisa, I'm going to respond to your email in depth where your question, your general topic seems to be interested in like women remaining in abusive relationships.
You can't.
That's true, Shorty, you're right. 1 extra credit point for you. So within that, like, I would imagine that some of that has come from either personally or through media in some form. you probably have observed somebody remaining in an abusive relationship. Is that a fair assessment? That you have observed this at some point?
Yeah.
Right. And most people have. So then, and then your question speaks to, for most people, it may not seem rational for people to remain in abusive relationships, right? But we know that people do. So Davicia's question is trying to get at why. Now, a lot of people have asked that research question, so we can still look at that topic, but we probably want to unpack it a little bit more deeply. But she's basing it off of something that she observed. So ideally for your research topic in this class, I wanted to start with something that you're really interested in. It may be something that you have observed yourself and you wonder, not something that you already know the answer to, Latasia, but something that you wonder, like that you have observed, but you wonder, why does this happen? So let's look at some examples here. We talked about before how it's logical that children who were abused will become abusive parents. And pardon me for some redundancy here, but it's really important that we understand the logic of all this before you even start your research. So again, we know that most human beings are products of their environment. So it just seems logical that if you have observed your parents or caregivers deal with discipline in this way, it seems logical that you might pick up some of this yourself. Now, the difficulty is that, you know, as we talked about before, when I asked y'all like the relationship about income and education, it's always important, Ashaya, that you understand that it's very, and hear me out here, okay? Hear me out. There are very few things that only happen for one reason. There are very few things that only happen for one reason. There are very few things that only happen for one reason. So usually it's all types of factors involved. That makes it where it becomes difficult. Like we as scientists, social scientists, it becomes difficult for us to explain that this is what always happens. Well, we try and explain our relationships. So to say, is there a relationship between smoking and lung cancer? Is there a relationship between sugar, foods high in salt and sugar and diabetes? Is there a relationship? Is there a relationship between education and income? Yes.
Yes.
But does that mean that everybody who smokes a lot of cigarettes is going to get lung cancer? No. There are always other things involved. So we want to keep that in mind as we go through our own research, all right? So what I want you to begin to think about is how we can observe if there's a relationship between variables. How can we observe if there's a relationship between two variables? That if you believe there's a relationship between abusive behavior in some aspect of female psychology or the psychology of the abuse, I want you to begin to think about, Davicia, how could you observe that? Like, you know, so this is when we talk about observations, what I mean here are our research methods. Recall for me again, what are some of the different research methods in social science?
Observation. I mean, like physical observation, like you observed it for yourself.
Good. More specifically, Janaya, participant observation. Well, actually, let me rephrase. There can be participant observation and there can be field experiment where people don't know that they're being watched. So there are two categories of observation, but good, where you actually see it for yourself. Good. What are some others?
A scientific thinking one?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
What are some ways
Collect data.
all of this, so we collect data through the methods. What are some methods that we use to collect our data?
Survey, questionnaire.
Mhm.
Good. Give me another one.
Survey.
Experiments.
Oh.
So make sure y'all make note of this. Now, these are some of the things, right, that if I ask y'all this next week, I'm going to get a little frustrated if y'all don't still know it. These are things y'all should know by now, but these are the fact that y'all don't know it, that's more of a reflection on us than it is on y'all. But make sure that you know how you're gonna make these connections. So the way that you go about collecting the data is through these different methods, such as experiments, survey research, participant observation, field experiments, and even secondary data analysis. Secondary data analysis, where you will use somebody else's information to make new conclusions.
Mm.
We're going to talk about all those methods in great detail. So you don't
You
have
said secondary. You said secondary.
secondary data analysis.
Okay.
So make note of that. Please look at these notes a little bit over the weekend, y'all. But even if you don't know the exact terms, all of you have used these methods in some form before, I promise. So what we do here, right? So a theory, for one extra credit point, what does a theory do?
To is used to measure the variables that you're testing, right?
Not quite.
Mm.
It tell you what it is instead of what it should be.
So a theory tries to explain why something happens. A theory tries to explain why something happens. Particularly, it explains the relationship of cause and effect. A theory explains a relationship of cause and effect. A theory attempts to explain a relationship of cause and effect. A theory attempts to explain a relationship of cause and effect. That we don't believe that things just happen for no reason. The same way that we don't believe a hurricane just happens for no reason, an earthquake just appears out of nowhere. We don't believe that pandemics happen for no reason. We don't believe that women are paid lower salaries than men for no reason. We don't believe that diabetes, some groups get diabetes and hypertension at higher rates for no reason. So we try and formulate theories of why this happens. This involves collecting of data and then analyzing the data that we collected. You all have done this in some form. So again, right, everybody has a theory about, has formed many theories. So let me give you an example here, Nashaya. You have an untested theory. An assignment that you're going to do next week, Janaya, your hypothesis is going to be an untested theory. So you got an untested theory that your significant other is being unfaithful. You don't know for sure. You ain't got no data to prove it, Janaya. But you think, but some just seem off, and you think that something might be off. That you know that there might be something up. As we talked about before, Latasia, a theory should be guided by logic and observation. So let me ask you this, young people. Hopefully you've never been cheated on before. Hopefully, Diamond, you've never cheated before. But a theory should be guided by logic and observation. So if you've been cheated on before, if you've had friends that have cheated before or been cheated on before, what kind of things might you observe to make you think that this person might be creeping? What might you observe? Don't overthink it, be very specific. What would you observe to make you think that there might be something suspicious going on?
Who are you?
They body language.
Be more specific.
You.
So if I'm slumping, that means I'm cheating?
No.
Like how you interact within like activities. Like, so say for instance, like if we was to go out somewhere or whatever the case may be, like however much you're showing attention to whatever that it is that we're doing give me a vibe.
Okay, good. So attention. And keep in mind, one of the things I want y'all to think about, right? When we talk about empiricism, what do we usually try and use when we make an empirical claim? What do we usually try and use when we make an empirical claim?
Numbers.
Yes, excellent. So we can put a number on attention. When we was first dating, like you would be giving me like, 100% attention, or if we was having a 10-minute conversation, you would be really paying attention for like 9 minutes. Now, you only paying attention for like 3 minutes out of 10 minutes. What's going on? What else? What's some other things? Again, I want y'all to be very, very specific. Don't tell me body language. Give me a specific body part and tell me what's happening. So be very specific. If you think they cheat, you're making a serious claim here talking about your man is cheating, Latasia. So what specific kind of things are they doing? Anybody that make you think that maybe they might be. It is funny, Shorty, you're right.
That facial expression, like if you was to ask them a specific question and then like they look off or they start fidgeting.
Excellent. So when I ask them certain questions, they make eye contact. Where was you at? What? The delay tactic, huh? What?
Or get defensive. Yeah, get defensive.
Why you always asking me where I've been? Dang.
Or they start lying.
How do you know that they're lying?
What if you already got proof that you know that?
Okay, good. So like you can ask them like, hey, like how was class today? And you know that that one of your girls is in class with dude and he wasn't actually in class. Oh, it was cool. It was dope. Oh, really? Tell me something. What did you learn? What did Dr. Muhammad talk about in today's class? Oh man, he was really going in today. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, so you can say that. Again, we can put a number on it. That I asked you 5 questions last week and you lied on 4 of those questions. What are some other things? And usually, again, you're not going to be putting it that precise to your mind, but the mind will play these things. There's something that triggers you having these thoughts if you have ever had them. Tell me some other things. What could you observe that might make you think that they could be cheating? Come on.
They might be more distant than usual.
What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like some people, when they talk to somebody else, they won't show you as much attention that they used to.
We talked about attention already. What else?
I mean, that's kind of distant though.
Yeah.
If you don't do the same stuff you did to get my attention, then I get what she's saying.
Like what? I don't. Y'all gotta be more specific.
Like so.
Kissing on you.
Okay, there we go. So like, okay, good. So you would kiss me at least once every day. Now you never kiss me. We would cover the baby's ears for a second. We might have intercourse at least 5 times a week before. Now we only do it once a week. You would text me 25 times, when we was first dating. Now you only text me 2 or 3 times. Your text used to be a lot more detailed. Now you give me a lot more yes, no text. What are some other things you can observe? I need to help some of y'all out, man. Some of y'all probably getting cheated on right now, and y'all not looking for none of the signals, dog.
Hey.
They probably be done change a little password and stuff.
About distance. How do you know how you gonna know about the password, dog?
We gonna go check.
Wait a minute, wait. So y'all got access to passwords and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Turn the location off, all that.
What? Wait. So y'all be monitoring, like y'all can see like where they're at all times, and they be okay with that?
Monitor. I just like to keep check,
It's not that know when they turn it off because the iPhone gonna tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. What about if they're in your presence? What are some things they might do with their phone?
This
turn
right
their
here.
phone over.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
You turn your phone
Privacy
over.
screen.
You
Put
turn
it on silent.
Good. Y'all know. All right, y'all might be a little bit better than I thought. So now y'all got this hypothesis, right? Your hypothesis is that this dude or this girl may be cheated. You don't know for sure. It's an untested theory, Janaya. You could be wrong. You don't know. Now, here's what I want y'all to do. Break out a blank sheet, break out some paper again. Take 5 minutes and write out as many methods as you can possibly think of that you can use to collect data to support your theory. You think they may be cheating, but we can prove it in the 21st century, can't we? Trust me, we can prove it in the 21st century. There may or may have been things, you know, in my distant past, Nashaya, that I didn't tell nobody else that other people found out about somehow. I'm like, damn. So it's always this is one of the questions that we could potentially find proof of. Tell me and think outside the box with this. What are the methods that you would use to find out if this is true? Take 5 minutes and we'll open up the discussion in a couple of moments, okay? Are there any questions about what you're trying to answer here?
Repeat the question one more time.
So you got this untested theory.
Okay.
That your man is cheating. What methods could you use to find out if it is true? What methods could you use to find out if it's true? You think so, but you're really invested in this relationship, Latasia. You don't want to just end it over nothing now, do you? You love this man. So you need to be sure before you make that move. What methods?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Janai.
So it's like out of the research methods, which one would be more?
No, great question.
Okay.
Great question. No, not the research methods, just your ghetto street methods.
I'm about to say you can use research methods too, like the field observation.
Absolutely.
They don't know that I'm them.
Absolutely. You get ahead of me, Janaya. You're absolutely right. It like all those things, they really do fit in on the social science methods for sure. You can definitely do some field research and find out. Tell me how, though, Janaya, and we'll open up the discussion.
How I would do field observation?
Well, like how would you construct it to try and find out if this is true? And if you want to tie it to field observation, you can, but I'm not asking you to do that here. But I'm saying that to say that your thinking is absolutely on the right track. But no, your answers, you don't have to say experiments, surveys. Although I'm tricking y'all, that y'all gonna be using some of that anyway. But just the methods at your disposal. What would you use? Take 5 minutes. There are no wrong answers to this question. There are no wrong answers. And we'll open up for dialogue in a moment. If you're still right now, go ahead and finish our responses, but let's go ahead and open up the dialogue again. We have this untested theory, which is a hypothesis. What are some ways that we try and find out if this is true or not? Anybody? What did you write down?
So you know how you would tell them something like, just make up something, then they'll tell on their own self.
Give me, can you give me an example?
So be like, let me see. Dang. I know I done did it before.
Think about it. And then think about it. We'll come back to it. Other thoughts, other responses. What did you write down? How did you try and find this out? Shia?
I will say reverse psychology. Play reverse psychology.
Like, all right, so let me ask it this way. Tell me exactly what you would do. So you're telling me kind of what you're trying to accomplish. But what I'm asking for with the method is exactly what you would do. So like when we talked about research methods, I am going to give a survey. I'm going to conduct an experiment. I'm going to utilize participant observation. So if I'm trying to find out if someone is cheating, what am I, Kareem? What should I, Kareem, do? To try and find out if it's true or not.
Another thing, when you go through their phone and they be done delete something, you'll know they delete something because them ding or the messages don't add up to how many text messages they got on their phone.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So we can measure the amount of phone calls that I have heard you receive. And again, like it's different as opposed to like casual observation where you're not really thinking about it, right? You're not really listening for the things. But now when you use scientific thinking where you have this hypothesis, I'm going to listen for how many times I heard your phone ding and how many actual phone calls I see. And then if there's been an effort, this will allow me to observe that there have been some efforts made to erase certain information, and then that goes into why, which is a very interesting research question, isn't it, Davici? What else? What are some other things I could do? Very good, Davici. You're giving me some good strategies. What else can I do to try and find out if this person is cheating?
I wouldn't do this, but you know how some people, they'll make a little fake page too.
Excellent.
A little fake.
Excellent. So we might create a thirst trap where like, hey, I can create an alter ego and I'm trying to holler at you on social media and I see if you bite. Because one of the ways, right, when we talk about trying to find out what's real, that was where we began this class with Latasia. The research methods help us to do that. We can use survey research, but what could be a problem sometimes if we do survey research? So if we ask somebody, how many times have you cheated on your wife this year? Do you think that we're always going to get honest answers from most Americans?
No.
So what's the best way for us to find out what's real? To actually see them cheating, right? That can be tough to do sometimes, but not impossible. So I can put myself in a position to see how you will react when you think nobody is looking. That's where we really get to truth at, right? So we can ask people surveys, we can do experiments, but the real way that we get to truth, Janaya, is how people behave when they think nobody is looking. A police officer, again, when there's a dash cam on, they may act a certain way, but when they don't think nobody's taping and somebody actually got a camera across the street or they phone across the street and they recording stuff, it'd be a little bit different sometimes, right? This is true for all human behavior. So keep this in mind. What are some other things we could do? What are some other methods that I could use? If I think that my significant other is cheating, what are some ways that I could try and find out?
You know, some people forget what they tell you, and then you ask the same question again, they might tell you a different answer.
Excellent. So one of the research techniques that I did not mention earlier is just simple interview technique. So sometimes you could do a survey. A survey is where you give them a document to fill out. An interview is different, Latasia. So an interview allows me to ask, like, because in a survey, it just be yes, no, rate highly, strongly agree. It doesn't really allow me to ask follow-up questions. In an interview, though, Latasia, you could do that. So In an interview, what else can you see besides their answers? What can you see? Y'all talked about this before.
Body language.
Yes. So you're not only observing their answers in an interview, Janiyah, you record that too. Okay, that's what they said. But you also make a note. When I was asking them this, they looked down the whole time. When I asked them this, they started talking really fast, and they started like, making jokes and shit. They get kind of nervous when I was asking them this part. Like those things, like again, matter and are observed in social sciences is very important. Any other way? So again, I hope y'all making notes about this, right? We talked about survey research. You can do participant observation. Ain't none of y'all ever had one of y'all girls try hey, go flirt with him and see what happens.
Because he gonna get beat up.
No. But just sit back and watch. I was going to give an example, but I may come back to that later on. Tell me some other methods. How could you find out whether or not you think this person is cheating? What are some methods you could use to try and find out? Anybody? No wrong answers.
Pulling up on them.
Say it again.
Pull up on them. But no, I'm just playing. Besides doing that though, like getting feedback, from who they be around. Go ask your mama and them, all them good people.
Good, very good, very good. So those are primary sources and stuff that can help you get information that kind of speaks to
Put it down.
who they are when nobody is looking. Anything else before we get ready to close for the day? So keep this example in mind, right? Look, it's a really basic, fundamental, somewhat sophomoric example. But it speaks to the fact, right, that you have this untested claim in your head and you want to find out if it's true or not. That's all we're going to be doing in social research. So I know Davicia and Janiyah have already kind of gotten a start on this process. I'm going to send Zoom links to each of you to schedule meetings for tomorrow so we can talk through these next stages, if that's okay. If that doesn't work for you, propose another day and time that does. Anybody else, though, have you started thinking at least about your general topic so far? Even if you ain't got your question, before we go for the day, has anybody started working on your general topics that you think you might want to look at? It's due next week, y'all. Y'all should really be thinking about these things. If you're behind next week, it's going to be my strong recommendation, quite frankly, that you might really consider dropping this class altogether because it gets difficult to get caught up once you get behind. So, there's no topic or social problem that interests you at all?
I would say why people have different phobias, but I don't know if that's.
It could be is that something that really interests you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, absolutely.
Because I was scared to
Good. So it looks so you may want to explore what kind of factors influence people having different phobias. Good. Are some people different afraid of heights? Are some people afraid of riding? Are some people
or some people just be germophobic and be scared of snakes and things like that.
Okay, good. And we can look into what factors predict those kind of phobias. Okay, good. Any other thoughts? Again, we're looking at a relationship between variables in these projects. So what type of relationships or social policy might you be interested in? Where again, there may have been something that you observed in society and you just wondered, why does this happen? Why does this occur?
I mean, I got mine, but I was just gonna throw this out there for somebody if they want to consider it. How people function without their phones. How majority of the time, whenever you go out places, everybody always on their phone instead of actually bonding with people. So that's just an idea.
Good. Excellent. I like that a lot. We could do a lot of things with that one, Janiyah. I taught in another one of my classes related to that, for example, right? A student had mentioned the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, which I highly recommend that you check out if you get a chance. And it speaks to how our engagement with social media, again, we look at cause and effect in social sciences. So do y'all think that there have been any social effects in terms of our international obsession with social media? Do y'all think that has had any effects for society?
Sorry, in regards to what?
Anything? Or is it just that, you know, a fun place for people to hang out? This field makes a conclusion that it's had all types of impacts upon people's self-esteem, on their levels of depression, of even their social activity, where people think that they just be going on to like social media and stuff like that. But social media is very much designed to create certain effects for you that many people believe is normal and natural. You can do your own research on that. But whatever the case, I do hope that you begin to think scientifically, you know, in more depth soon. If you want to share your ideas offline, I'll be available. But again, we got to get this cracking very quickly. Janai and Davi should be looking out for your invites, and I will see you all on Tuesday.
Alrighty.
All right.